From a migrant crisis to a state budget that's a month late, it's been a hot time in the Old Town tonight. Two of New York's political sages join me to sort it all out. The Point starts right now. Well, it is a crazy busy time for New York officials. I'm talking to former Governor David Paterson, a Democrat, and Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, a Republican. I want to start with talking about congestion pricing, an issue that's a big issue for Long Island. And the governor announced on Friday that it's the next big step, and we're almost there and almost at the starting line. I wonder how you feel as the county executive in Nassau County, where your constituents are now going to have to pay to come into the central business district in Manhattan.
It's probably one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard of in my life. To some extent, I'm against it because I hate to see that extra fee imposed on our residents in Nassau County when they visit New York City. But we're also a beneficiary of that. I think a lot of people are going to say, why come to Manhattan? We've got great commercial space out on Long Island. We've got great restaurants. We've got world-class shopping. We've got health facilities that are equal to New York City. So I think a lot of businesses and a lot of people are going to stay on Long Island.
But let me ask you this. I mean, it's also supposed to have money for, dare I say it, the Long Island Railroad. So it would make it better for people who are your constituents to commute into the city by mass transit. So is this sort of a yes and no kind of thing, or are you just dead set against it?
No, I'm against it. And if you look at the ridership on the Long Island Railroad, it's way down. I think there are other issues that really have to be resolved. And I think the most important issue is the safety issue. I think a lot of people still don't feel safe coming into New York City, and not a reflection on Mayor Adams, because I think the NYPD and Mayor Adams are serious about crime. But I think basically our lawmakers up in Albany need to understand that most people feel that criminals get more rights than victims in New York City, so they're reticent to come into New York City.
Governor Paterson, congestion pricing, an idea whose time has come, or maybe should we wait a while?
Well, 40% of the commercial space in Manhattan is unoccupied right now, and 30% of the office space is unoccupied. So there are people who are not coming here. Perhaps the plan might work if we start to get more people moving around in Manhattan. So it may get off to a slow start, but hopefully as those people come back and they're 5 days a week instead of 2 or 3, it could be effective.
It sounds like you're actually agreeing with Bruce Blakeman that you think it may be ill-advised.
Well, only time will tell. And right now, in the very beginning, I don't think it will be the revenue generator that it's intended to be. Also, it was the fact that, you know, so many people were coming to the city and using all the city's services, and this is why they wanted to have this district, you know, in that area where people would pay to come in. But right now, that's something in the future, and I really can't predict how it's going to work.
Mr. County Executive, I would ask you this question. Should there be exemptions for people? You know, a lot of police officers and firefighters happen to live in Nassau County, and they have to come in, and many of them would have to work in the central business district in Manhattan. Should they get exemptions? Should teachers get exemptions? Should EMS workers get exemptions? Where do you come down on that?
Well, I think you make a great point. There are people that have to work in Manhattan, firefighters, police officers, teachers, EMTs, and just regular people who have their job in Manhattan, and basically they're making it much more expensive for them to work in Manhattan. So I think it's going to have a negative effect on commerce in New York City, and I think that Nassau County is going to be a beneficiary of that. I think people are going to say, why spend all this money to go to New York City? Why not just stay here? We've got great restaurants, we've got great shopping, we've got great job opportunities.
And you've got Zoom.
And we got Zoom, exactly.
So how do you feel, Governor? Do you think that there should be exemptions for people who have jobs that are critical in the congestion zone below 60th Street?
We certainly don't want those people to change careers. And while they're doing the meaningful work that they're doing, I don't think it would hurt to exempt a lot of them from paying the toll.
So let's talk about the migrant crisis, the thing the mayor of the city of New York calls a humanitarian crisis. There's a hunt for space. Where are we going to find the space to put all these people?
It's going to be very difficult, and the mayor has put himself out there in being critical of the national policy, the White House, and you know, trying to get them to see that it's going to be very difficult to house the number of people that are coming in since the Title 42 ended Thursday night. And so this is an encumbrance on the city that we don't need right now, because we have enough people in the streets who are from our own area, and right now 20 to 30,000 homeless people wandering the streets, and now to be joined by migration population is going to be very difficult, and the mayor has stood up to this. I'm proud of the work he's done.
But Mr. Blakeman, a number of county executives in upstate New York have resisted the mayor's attempt to rent space in their districts. I wonder if the mayor would decide to come to someplace in Nassau County, your reaction, what would it be?
Well, Nassau County is not a sanctuary county, so we would not accept that. Basically, I think President Biden needs to get serious about sealing the borders and knowing who's coming into the country, and having an asylum program where people who, if they claim asylum, you have to vet them first, keep them in detention until you know exactly who they are and why they're coming into the country. And then I would say that I'm critical of both parties. I think the Republicans and the Democrats in Congress have to get serious about a comprehensive immigration plan that seals our borders. We know who's coming in, a guest worker program for people who we need. We need some people in this country to perform various tasks that are open right now. And I talk to my friends who live on the border. It's a catastrophe there. Now they're bringing this catastrophe across America to the metropolitan area. We're seeing crime by people from south of the border who are coming here across the country and selling fentanyl and doing other things. We need to get serious about sealing the borders, but then we have to have a common sense, smart approach to immigration. A guest worker program, I think, would be very smart. But Republicans on the far right and Democrats on the far left, they don't want to solve the problem because they raise money and they make all kinds of publicity by just letting it be the way it is. And I think that we really need our federal lawmakers and the White House to get together and solve the problem once and for all.
But if the mayor were to find some space or some hotel or some gym or whatever he finds in Nassau County, would you do like the other county executives have done and declare a state of emergency and try to stop it?
We would definitely stop it. We're not equipped. I talk to school districts all the time. They're at capacity now. There's been no planning. So how can you have classrooms available? How can you have teachers available for an influx of students that you didn't plan for? Our social services would be taxed. We're trying to help people now. Child Protective Services, our food stamp program, these would all be stressed out. And it's not fair. This is a federal problem. Seal the border, solve the problem, and don't bring these people here across the country and at taxpayer expense with no plan, with no reimbursement, and basically in a situation where it's not even good for them.
Governor Paterson, do you think that the president hasn't done enough for New York City?
Well, I think that this is a system-wide problem. In other words, it's not happening just in New York City. It's happening all over the country, with 10,000 people coming across the border and getting into the country every day. It's just going to increase the problem. And as the county executive pointed out, the plan for what was going to happen when these people got here doesn't exist. So now what's happening is people like Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul are going to have to try to think up a plan and react to this, as opposed to perhaps having worked on it for a long period of time before the crisis has occurred. But the crisis has occurred now, so we're behind it. not in front of it.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be right back. I'm back with Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman and former Governor David Paterson. So we just finished a legislative session, and during the gubernatorial campaign, the Republican candidate for governor, Lee Zeldin, made a big deal about bail reform. And lo and behold, the legislature passed changes to bail reform. I ask both of you, will this make the streets safe or safer?
Well, I think that was the interesting thing about bail reform all along. It doesn't have the effect of reducing crime that people who were advocates for it were saying that it does. What I think we really have to be dealing with is obviously more law enforcement in the areas, and a way to cut down on these repetitive situations where people are arrested 30, 45, 60 times and always seem to get out to wreak more havoc. So I think it was great that the governor was able to accommodate what many people around the state wanted. Hats off to her, but there's a whole lot more to do that we probably haven't spent enough time talking about.
Mr. Blakeman.
Well, I agree with the governor. I don't think it goes far enough. I think that basically we need to restore that discretion to judges. Judges are in the best position to determine if someone is a flight risk or if they are a danger to the community, which is the two criteria.
But see, the thing is, she says it gives them more discretion. I guess do you really mean that they should be able to consider dangerousness, which 49 other states have, but we do not?
Yes, of course. I think that it's important to consider whether or not, if you release somebody, that they're a potential danger. And, you know, Governor Paterson brought something up that's very, very important. You know, how can you be walking around if you've been convicted 30 times of a crime, even if it's a misdemeanor? It's obviously you have no respect for the law. And what we're seeing now is people walking around and getting out, and they're committing crime after crime because there are no consequences. So I think it was a minor tweak, but I think basically our state lawmakers have to go a lot further. Give it back to judges, let them have discretion, and maybe make the judges bring people back who haven't made bail every 30 days and reevaluate it, and keep an eye on the judges. Are they doing their job? Nobody wants a situation where some teenager steals a backpack and they're in jail for 6 months or a year because they can't post bail. Republicans don't want that. Democrats don't want that. Independents don't want that. Give the judges back discretion, put some oversight over the judges.
So one of the things that was regarded as a loss for Governor Hochul was the failure of the legislature to consider the housing plan, which would have, especially in communities, suburban communities like Nassau, would have set zoning restrictions and forced zoning restrictions and forced localities to build affordable housing. So how do you both feel about that?
Well, I'm very happy that the governor and the legislature came forward with a plan that, rather than mandate housing, because in Nassau...
Well, they want to mandate housing, they just didn't pass it.
Well, they came to the conclusion, which I think is the right conclusion, that the better way to do it is through offering incentives, number one. And number two, you have to look at each individual area, each region, because Nassau County is very different than Erie County. And in Nassau County, we already have the most populated, density-wise, suburban county in America. So we just don't have the room to increase housing to the levels that you may want to do it in some other county.
She wanted it to be about 3% in the entire state. Governor Paterson, good idea, bad idea? She wants to negotiate to try to have it happen. Will she succeed?
I think that she has a chance to make it succeed. I think there's considerable support for it. The legislature didn't pass it in the budget process, but they still have about three or four more weeks to take a second look at it.
But see, you know, the thing that she said is that she doesn't think that a system that just gives incentives is good enough to force people to actually build housing. She believes in something called the carrot and the stick, that if you have requirements, the zoning requirements, that would force localities to build more housing. Is that necessary in order to get localities to build the 800,000 units of housing she says the state needs?
Well, I think she feels that for a long period of time, the housing codes and the zoning was extremely restrictive. Long Island was the capital of that, but Levittown was, had a zoning policy that was totally out of step with the times today. And I think she just feels that it's not happening fast enough, and she'd like to move it more quickly than it has been in the past.
But see, I think the argument is that because if you want to get more jobs to come here, you have to have housing for people to come here and accept the jobs. And her point, not to make her point, but she was arguing that we are losing those people to housing options in Connecticut and New Jersey as opposed to people living here in New York.
I don't think people are leaving New York because of the housing options. I think they're leaving New York because of high taxes and crime. So I think those are the two driving forces. But I understand where the governor is coming from. She wants to create more housing. Well, you've got Buffalo, you've got Rochester, you've got Syracuse, you got Utica, you got Rome, New York. These are all urban areas that basically are blighted right now. So why not repopulate their areas? Nassau County doesn't have a housing problem because we are already the highest density population of any suburban county in the United States. We just don't have room. We're surrounded by water.
So basically, are you really saying that the governor should forego a statewide housing problem and just do an upstate housing program?
I think that it should be surgical rather than with a meat cleaver. I think that you should look at various areas that need housing. I would argue that Utica, Rome, Syracuse, they all need to repopulate their urban centers. So I don't think it's an upstate, downstate. I think it's a common sense thing. Repopulate those areas, revitalize those cities, which were once great cities, but because of the way that manufacturing has left the state many years ago, certainly not the governor's fault. This happened back in the 60s and 70s. Repopulate those communities. That's where we really need to repopulate.
Governor Paterson, is that actually doable with the legislature being mostly a downstate legislature?
Well, I think that the interesting aspect of just the whole discussion is that it's mostly the downstate legislators that want to do this in these particular counties.
Well, not the suburban lawmakers. I want to tell you that I don't know anybody in Westchester or Long Island, including Suffolk, that was supportive of this housing plan.
I don't either.
Republicans and Democrats.
Refreshingly candid.
Yes.
So we've been talking about Governor Hochul. We have about a minute left. I wonder how you feel she's doing in her first term where she was elected in her own right.
I think that she has been able to accomplish some of these goals that she has been fighting for. I think that she has a problem that rarely happens to a governor when all three of the portions of government, the state senate, the assembly, and the governor's office, are run by Democrats. And that sounds like it's great, but look what happened to President Trump and what he wanted to do, the Obama plan. The people on the far right, when he first got in office in 2017, blocked it. And this has happened to Governor Hochul as well. She's civil wars are always more difficult, and I think she's tried to be gracious in the process.
We have about 15 seconds left. Can you sum up in 15 seconds what you think of Governor Hochul?
I think that her and I are trying to work together to solve problems, and sometimes we're going to disagree. But I respect her office, and I look forward to working with her on areas that we can agree.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our program continues right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York.